Paul, thanks very much for coming to talk to me today. I have been desperate for your advice on this problem I've been facing for years now. You are, among all of the people I've networked with, the one person who seems to have all of this stuff figured out as far as how to keep track of all of those business cards that keep piling up over the day after day of meetings.
I have studied thousands of business cards.
So I know that you've got a database of contacts that's more than 10,000 people. And that within that group, you can look up where you met them, when you met them, why you might want to stay in touch. Everything that I would ever want, but these are trapped all over the place. So I need to know how to switch from this to what you have in your fabulous little PDA. What can you tell me?
Okay, so there are three things that I think you can do. One is, and I'll kind of give the highlights, and then we'll dig into a few of them. Can I share the 20 years of experience practicing this and making mistakes and getting it all down? No, but we'll start somewhere, right? So number one is preparation.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that I don't leave my house without grabbing my cell phone and my wallet and my keys, I don't leave without a stack of business cards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that help with receiving cards? Only in that it helps me get in the frame of mind to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I run around and give my business cards out like that, but having these is something that I'm shocked to meet people who say, "Oh, I didn't bring a business card." When I take my business cards out in the morning, it's actually part of the kit that I take, which includes a pen, not only my business cards, but also some blanks.
Mm-hmm.
Because people will say they don't have a business card, I'll hand them something that they can jot down their information on.
I have that happen a lot.
And I actually have a special form that helps with that. It's on my website, and we'll give that address in a little bit. But my point is that it'll support the convenient, quick jotting down of a phone number,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll help them remember to put their email in, and some other things that actually help with what the second
Mm-hmm.
point is.
Okay.
So if number one was be prepared, get
Mhm.
ready, kind of have the intention that I'm going to meet people who who either have needs that I can help with, which feels great when I can help somebody, I can connect somebody else,
Yep.
and they might be able to help me. There's lots of things. I might be looking for a new apartment. I might be looking to sell a car that I've got. I might be looking to pitch a project. I might be looking for funding on a project. All of us are at so many different places in our life. We have so many different things. I mean, sometimes it's like I'm looking for a new sport for my son. He plays hockey. What else could he really? And so somebody
Mm-hmm.
might share something like that with me. I'm always
Yeah.
looking for the power of connection.
Well, and the beginning of a new conversation, you have that checking each other's interests and areas out. That opening where you're talking about what kind of things are you interested in, what kind of projects do you do, and the likelihood, given the number of different projects most people I'm meeting are into, the number of different goals that we're carrying around at the same time, the likelihood that we overlap in at least one, pretty high.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons
That you network.
that's one of the reasons I love the conversation, and I see the business card part of it as a part that I'm kind of comfortable with. It's part of the closing out of a conversation. If you've had a good first connection, you want to stay in touch. Do you have a card? By offering mine, it becomes more of an exchange.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons I love having cards.
So let me give you the second
Mm-hmm.
umbrella, and that is a key takeaway. Something that you already clearly know, But I'll give you a slight way to reframe that, and that is not to be thinking about it in terms of giving a card,
Mm-hmm.
but rather getting a card.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not like the same as giving in a relationship versus getting. It's really more a matter of respect and showing attention.
Mm-hmm,
People
mm-hmm.
love it when we pay attention to them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when I'm meeting you, very early in the conversation, I will often say, "Do you have a business card that I can jot some notes on?" Which comes back to the power of the pen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So being prepared and then having the courage to ask questions. Courage to ask questions has a couple of different nuances. One is that when we can ask for their business card, then we take some notes. I might jot down not only the date that I met somebody, but
Mhm.
also, they might be wearing purple, my favorite color, so I might jot that down. They might mention that they spent some time in Illinois. So did I, right? So we both spent time in Illinois. So those are little hooks. I use tags.
Mm-hmm.
We're starting to see more and more tags on different things on the internet, right?
Mhm.
Sites and that kind of thing. So I tag my cards so that, let's say, you're on my list,
Mhm.
not speculating, but you really are on my list. And one of the things I know about you is that you have an iPhone, like I do. So if I find an article about an iPhone or a great iPhone app, I can look for the
Shared interests. So
Exactly,
so anything
right.
and ideas for how to trigger the memory. If you meet somebody and they're wearing purple, and 2 years later you meet them again, and you're able to recall the visual of the memory, not just that you have met them. I could imagine that being something that allows you to continue building rapport instead of starting all over from scratch. Like, what's your name again?
Not only that, but you would be, I am always tickled.
Mm-hmm.
It happens regularly to me where I meet somebody and say, your name is really familiar. I think we've met before. And I'll check in my iPhone or, my PDA of the day, because I've always used a Palm Pilot and a Trio and these kind of things. They always change. And so there have been times when I've met somebody and I say, you know what, the last time we talked was 10 years ago, and you were at this company, and you were actually talking about this challenge, and they are blown away.
Oh, because we couldn't recall that we were talking about. We don't recall what we were talking about 2 hours ago.
It's
So
some people think it makes them think that I was actually paying attention, right? They say, "Wow, here's somebody who listens." I do listen, but to tell you the truth, there's so much information these days. If I don't jot it down on a card,
right.
and I don't use the discipline, so this is the third part.
Mm-hmm.
The third part is budget and discipline for follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to take 2 hours to go to a luncheon meeting and meet people, I'm going to budget at least half an hour somewhere at the end of that day or very early the next morning to not only go through and review my cards, but also to do a quick follow-up. I'll either use a follow-up in LinkedIn or in my email system, not an email program, but a mailing system that I can send somebody sort of my own approach to networking.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I've seen really seals the yes, we've made contact and we now have each other's contact information online.
Right.
That's the thing I know has taken the person from just being a card into at least part of my online system.
Right. And I want to make
But-
sure that I'm communicating my true intention, which is that I don't think about people as cards. This is not, I don't think of this as your stack of baseball cards, and because you have more, you've got a bigger team or something.
Right.
It's really the quality of these relationships. And so the more that we can convert this from a card that just has, the text that they printed into a little series of memory joggers
Yes.
that will help us remember when we met them, what we talked about, what things I saw as possibilities to help them with, right? Like I have a little, a bunch of different syntax, so kind of my own coding system. And so I'll say intro to, INTRO, and then the number 2, just as a quick memory jogger. Like I want to introduce you to somebody, or I want to introduce you, so I'll do that. And then later on, I'll make sure that I noted that I introduced that person. right? So that way it's not a matter of keeping score, like, oh, I've
Mhm.
introduced them to 3 people and now they've got to do something for me. It's really more a matter of helping myself to remember that I have given, right? There's
Yes.
the notion of,
Yes.
um,
I added value. I made a difference in some way. I followed up on the relationship and the intention that I said I was going to.
that's right. And then later on, you know, if there are times when,
Mhm.
you know, I need some of their help or
Their
I want
advice.
to communicate
Yeah.
with them, I've got some of that.
Mhm.
And again, this is all sort of a quick overpass.
When you're budgeting the time, how do you decide what's a good rule of thumb for how much time I should plan on after I've been to a meeting or a conference?
You know, I sort of block out half an hour to an hour, but if you wanted to put that down to how many cards did you collect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'd estimate that's about 15 cards,
Right.
2 minutes per card.
2 minutes per card.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. thank you.
And that's, I should say, that's just a part of kind of the process that I use, because the truth is, that's just to follow up and say, hey, I'm glad we talked about, you know, your son's Little League, and you know, we had that in
Mhm.
common. Love to follow up with coffee or something like that to see how we can help each other.
Mhm.
I mean, that is such a nice way of saying,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got something that you could be interested in, or you've got something that I could be interested in, but let's explore where we can go with it. I'm you know,
And
very
it gives them the invitation to take to the next step.
Right.
If they don't respond, ball's in their court.
and maybe they didn't find the same kind of energy, but you know, we really can't be responsible for everything in the world. All we can do is put out good energy.
And everybody is so very, very busy. I certainly don't take it personally when I don't hear back from someone.
The 3 things again are to be prepared,
Mm-hmm.
have a little, have your supplies and your power of your pen.
Mhm.
Number 2 is the courage to ask questions, ask for a card. More important, to get their card and be interested
Mhm.
than come across as interesting. And then 3 is to budget time for follow-up.
Okay, then with all that said, thank you enormously. I know we've all got to run. Pleasure seeing you again.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Bell.